Good evening. With the hour of 7:30 having arrived, I'd like to call the Common Council meeting of April 8th to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchak,
Here.
Alderman Talaco,
Here?
Alderman Meyer,
Here.
Alderman Hancher,
Here.
Alderman Bach,
Here.
Alderman Parrish,
Here.
Alderman Bratt,
Here.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Here.
and Mayor Nervin.
Here. First up, we have a public hearing, ordinance 2025-1675, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code, allowing showroom sales facilities as a conditional use within the city's B4 zoning district. This was recommended by Planning Commission February 24th, first reading last month here at the Common Council on March 18th, and further recommendation forthcoming from Public Welfare this evening.
Move to open public hearing.
Second.
The recommendation from Public Welfare?
Public Welfare took this up tonight and we approved it unanimously.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. All those in favor of entering public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
We are now in
Aye.
public. We are now in public hearing. Is anyone here this evening wish to speak on this topic? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And we will now take up this ordinance.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Hearing, Alderman Strelchak.
Yeah, I just have a question. It's conditional use in this B4 district. Is it an option in any other district as we see it? Not even on a conditional use, just
No.
not an option at all?
No, this is very specific kind of use. We don't have this language anywhere in our code. So we did add it to the B4. This was actually a request from an individual who has an offer on a property in B4 zoning district, so he paid for the text amendment to allow it to go into B4. So it wasn't a staff-driven policy request.
Okay. Seems very reasonable. I'm in support of it, so. I just didn't know why we didn't have it in other areas. It just seems,
It's kind of a tweener because B2 is more retail, B3 is office. It actually makes sense in the B4 more than any other district, so that's why we only left it in there. Because B2 is retail, and we have like tile shop, things like that can go in B2, but we didn't want to muddy the waters between like a tile shop versus something like this in a B4, because B4 is a business park. It's not really meant for general retail, so we kind of distinguished between the two uses and allowed this to be in the B4 because it doesn't have any on-site pickup for customers. They can't buy anything on-site. They have to go get it delivered, or they have to pick it up at a warehouse. So there's a difference between the two.
great.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, let's call the roll on this one.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
That ordinance is adopted. On to personal appearances and public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on any agenda items, you may be heard when that item is considered on the agenda. Please speak into the mic at the podium. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public officials' reports. I'll just add that when we get into the meat of tonight's agenda, there might be a slightly different order to some things when we get farther down. We've got updated agendas here, but if anyone's following along at home, some things might go out of sequence, so just listen to me carefully when I call out the resolution or ordinance numbers, and we'll try and piece it all together. Other than that, I just wanted to add that we are seeking your feedback. The city has advertised an open house for the Mequon Commons Master Plan for the area surrounding City Hall. That's going to be held here on April 30th from 3 to 7, well, not here, at Public Market from 3 to 7 in the mezzanine above where all the shops are. So come give your feedback on things like the pool, the baseball field, or any other future uses we'd like to entertain in this area as we move into the next 30 years of Mequon. And we'll try and make it the best we can for everyone. More info on that's available on our website. And that's all I've got this evening. Anything from our administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick items. With the start of spring, we are now in tornado season, and the state will be conducting a statewide tornado drill this coming Thursday, April 10th. As part of this exercise, the sirens here in Mequon will be sounding at 1:45 p.m. in the afternoon and again at 6:45 p.m. in the evening. So residents just should be aware of the fact that the tornado sirens, or emergency sirens rather, will be sounding twice this coming Thursday. And then coming up next month will be the first inaugural Redbud Festival on May 10th out here in front of City Hall between the hours of 12 and 5 p.m. Patterned somewhat after the Taste of Mequon, this will be a garden festival, an art festival, which will also feature live music and food from various vendors. Full details are available on the city's Festivals Committee website. And again, this new event will be taking place on Saturday, May 10th, out here on Cedarburg Road between the hours of noon and 5 p.m. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. On to the consent agenda. We have 11 sets of various minutes and reports from boards and commissions or staff reports and one resolution. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And the consent agenda is approved. On to ordinance first readings. First readings of ordinances will not be acted on unless there's a suspension of the rules approved by a recorded vote of 2/3 majority of all aldermen. The following ordinances are first readings. Ordinance 2025-1678, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code in connection with implementation of 2023 Wisconsin Act 16 related to the process and procedures for certain zoning-related applications. This is recommended by the Planning Commission on February 24th, and further recommendation is forthcoming from the Public Welfare Committee on April 8th this evening, and it is a first reading. Mr. Chair, did the Public Welfare Committee make a recommendation? Just to read that into the record. I'm just, we don't need to, but how did the committee? Okay, recommended by Public Welfare. This is a first reading. The second ordinance is 2025-1678, an ordinance amending section 58-41 Prin G of the Mequon Municipal Code related to the issuance of decisions by the Board of Appeals. This was recommended by the Board of Appeals January 2nd and recommended by Planning Commission on February 24th and is a first reading. On to actual ordinances that we'll act on this evening. Ordinance 2025-1678, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Mequon Municipal Code related to alcohol beverage licensing. This was recommended by Finance and Personnel Committee on March 11th and first reading at Common Council on March 11th. Is there a motion on this ordinance?
Move approval, but it was 1676 in the.
Oh, 1670. Did I read it wrong? Okay. Ordinance 1670. Oh, it's probably that or my dyslexia.
Second.
Or I just can't see. We have a first. We have a motion and a second. We have a motion, but not a second.
Second.
Okay, there's the second. Any discussion on this item? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
and Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
That ordinance carries. On to resolutions. Resolution 4197, a resolution approving a second amendment to a license agreement with AT&T, extending the term for the cellular tower located at 11333 North Buntrock Avenue through 2049. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions on this resolution? Hearing and seeing none, let's call the roll. I guess there's money involved in this one, so we'll call the roll.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
and Alderman Telako.
Aye.
That resolution passes. On to Resolution 4198, a resolution awarding a contract for replacement of the citywide voice-over internet protocol phone system and 5 years of service support to Ring Central of Denver, Colorado, in the amount of $86,575. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments on this item? Questions for staff? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Telako,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
That resolution passes as well. On to Resolution 4199, a resolution, adoption of a resolution authorizing a Sixth Amendment to the employment agreement between the City of Mequon and William H. Jones, Jr. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Telako,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
and Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
That resolution passes as well. On to Resolution 4200, a resolution suspending the live meeting broadcast requirement within the city's communication policy from April 16th through September 30th in conjunction with the renovation of Christine Nurnberg Hall. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Welfare this evening.
Public Welfare took up Resolution 4200 and approved it, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And that resolution passes as well. For those at home, we'll be taking a short break from live broadcasts from here. You'll still be able to get them online, just not live while it's happening, while we renovate this space and make it a little more modern and amenable to holding professional meetings and up to maybe the standard of the state of the current, at least. It's not going to be state of the art, but it'll be a little nicer than the 20-year-old projector and the poor lighting and the poor HVAC control. So we're looking to modernize a little bit here. So good things coming. On to Resolution 4203. This is where we start to go out of sequence from what was posted online. A resolution rejecting bids from the city's 2025 road patching contract. A recommendation forthcoming from the Public Works Committee this evening.
Public Works approved of the resolution 4203. And I move 4203.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Alderman Strelchak.
The motion is to reject, correct?
No, motion is to approve the resolution. The effect of the resolution is that it rejects the
Rejects,
bids.
Yeah, those are always tricky, and it's always
Yeah,
nice
it's
to
a,
just
it's a vote
restate
yes
your
to vote
intent.
no scenario. Good to clarify, though. Any further comments from anyone? Hearing and seeing none, let's call the roll.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Telako,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
and Alderman Bach.
Aye.
That resolution carries. On to Resolution 4202, a resolution awarding the 2025 crack sealing contract to American Pavement Solutions of Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed of $258,000. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Public Works approved this, and I move the motion. Resolution 4202.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
and Alderman Parrish.
That item's approved. On to Resolution 4201, a resolution approving award of a 2025 road improvement contract to Payne and Dolan of Jackson, Wisconsin, in the amount of $1,890,000. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Earlier today, Public Works approved of this, and I move Resolution 4201 for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this item? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll again.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt.
Aye.
That item too is approved. On to Resolution 4204, a resolution awarding the 2025 GSB 88 bituminous road sealing contract to Farner Asphalt Sealers of Waunakee, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed of $130,000. Recommendation again forthcoming from Public Works.
Public Works approved of this, and I move Resolution 4204.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
and Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
That item carries as well. On to Resolution 4205, a resolution authorizing the following contractors to exceed $25,000 in annualized expenditures for work performed on behalf of city departments during fiscal year '25. Branch Outland Clearing LLC, Egelhoff's Lawn Mower Service Incorporated, NS Paint Incorporated, Frank D. Gillitzer Electric Company Limited, Land and Stone Products Incorporated, Western Culvert and Supply Incorporated, Traffic and Parking Control Company Incorporated, and Outdoor Lighting Construction Company Incorporated. Recommendation forthcoming from the Public Works Committee.
Public Works approved of this, and I move Resolution 4205.
Second.
Motion and a second. Alderman Strelchak.
Just point of clarity, so they're allowed in the annual year to exceed the 25,000. However, no particular expenditure will exceed the $25,000 amount in one spend, correct?
I think this is a cumulative total of a bunch of them that end up eventually eclipsing the 25. Maybe Kristen's got more, maybe some of them do.
Well, that is generally true. Outdoor lighting in particular will exceed the 25,000. For those not aware, we had lightning damage of the new traffic signal at Buntrock and Mequon Road, and that repair alone is more than 25. So it's a combination of the two.
Even the heavens want that turned on, don't they?
Well, it was actually the other one, the one that actually is functional.
The one that's functioning, yeah, someone,
Yes.
someone hit it, yeah,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that that's what it was. We were following city policy.
Good question. Any other questions for staff? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
That too passes. On to Resolution 4206, a resolution granting an electrical distribution easement to Wisconsin Electric Power Company, aka We Energies, upon the Mequon Nature Preserve property located at 8200 West County Line Road. Recommendation forthcoming from the Public Works Committee this evening.
Public Works approve, and I move resolution 4206.
Second.
Motion and a second. Alderman Strelchak.
Okay, so the way that I read this one is that it's to the city's benefit and it would be safer to have those moved based on the turn lane that was going in. Is that my understanding? And then usually there's fiscal compensation. However, in this case, because it does work out well for the city, we're not asking for it, correct?
Correct. It's a build and contribute element, so it's for the, really the bypass lane for the secondary or north entrance for the new Swan Ridge Farms development. So it will ultimately be our bypass lane, and because it's our road and our bypass lane that is in conflict with We Energies, that's why the poles need to be moved and why there wasn't consideration of compensation. If it was a We Energies project that was requesting easement, then generally we would require compensation.
Yep, perfect clarity. It just was a little confusing the way it read. That's the only reason I asked.
Perfect. Excellent question. Any other questions for staff? Hearing and seeing none, everyone please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item carries as well. Resolution 4207, resolution approving an award of the FEMA floodplain letter of map change contract to M Squared Engineering LLC of Cedarburg, Wisconsin in the amount of $75,300. Recommendation also forthcoming from Public Works this evening. You guys are busy.
Do you want to give the recommendation first, and I can clarify the language if you need to?
Okay, I move resolution 4207 with a change.
So basically, we had a resident who owns property west. I have the map on the screen so to give you some visual where we are here. So we had a resident who was west of Bear Road. He was concerned that the scope of the project, which only included the impacts of Trinity Creek, which is this body here, up to the railroad track. He was concerned that we didn't go far enough back to hopefully help his property, which is kind of up in this area here. As you recall, we're modeling the Milwaukee River. We're looking at a map change for the Milwaukee River, and we're not going to do the Trinity Creek modeling per se, but we feel that there's a backwater effect that'll help a lot of the properties along this way. But the scope of the project only went to the railroad tracks. We felt that the culvert at the railroad tracks was probably going to be a restrictive flow already, so we didn't think there'd be a lot of benefit back in this area, and plus this is mostly vacant land. But I did speak with M Squared, who's here this evening, and they're willing to go back to the cross-section F, which is located basically back here, which will incorporate the property owner's land in question. So, and they're adding no additional charge to the contract, so it'll still be $75,300. So hopefully that satisfies everybody, and we're good to go. We rushed this back after our committee of the whole meeting, and the administration found money in the Environmental Remediation Interest Fund, and Thiensville is contributing $5,000 as well. So we're looking forward to get started on this and hopefully have it done and wrapped up in 18 to 24 months.
Second the motion to approve.
Alderman Parrish.
Yep. Thanks, Jack. And thank you to M Squared for modifying your proposal in such a generous way. You've been a great partner so far. And hopefully all the other communities around us use your services as well, because you've been great for us. I think my question here is mostly just relating to the Thiensville calculation. What is that? It's not based on, like, is it frontage on the river?
I did the GIS calculation about frontage along the river from Pioneer all the way down to County Line and what their portion was, and that's what it came out to be. So we have a lot more frontage along the river than they do. So
Got 11 or 12 miles of river, and they've got a mile to a mile and a half,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range.
So
Thank you.
Seemed like the most equitable way to split it up. We just got a lot
Not
more
going to be
river.
population or land, I guess, in this case. So that's fair.
yeah,
I think all those would have resulted in almost the exact same percentage.
yeah, probably would have been pretty
Yeah,
close
the
percentage.
Population, it's about the same ratio. Total land area, about the same ratio.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, a little skin in the game from our friends and partners in Thiensville, and they're excited to see the result of this too. So
And we're also meeting with Sewer Pack, I think, next week or two to talk about potentially their involvement. We don't know what that means as at this point, but we're looking maybe at the real change of the river holistically, not just Mequon, and see if they'd be a partner with us on that. We don't really know what the scope of that is, but we're having a meeting with them next week. Am I correct?
Yeah, the news story that appeared on Channel 4 caught their eye, and they reached out, and we started a conversation. We'll see where it goes next week, so.
Yeah.
Alderman Bach.
Remind me, Jack, and how long or what this process will take, or we're estimating?
Estimating 18 to 24 months, but there is a caveat there. This is DNR and FEMA we're both working with, so that could be longer. We're hoping that it doesn't take longer than that, but that's our current estimate.
Hopefully there won't be any disruption at the federal level, but things are a little hard to predict
Yes.
lately, so. We'll do our part, and then we'll have to wait for others to do their part. Any other comments from any of the aldermen? All right. I forget, do we have a motion? Motion and a second? Okay. Perfect. Hearing no other comments, please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchek,
Aye.
and Alderman Tolaco.
Aye.
Excellent. Fitting that Alderman Tolaco got the last vote. Thank you for joining us. That's all for resolutions tonight. We have no specified unfinished business from prior meetings. We have no specified new business. We don't have any closed session items either. We just need one motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. A short one.